Hi there, it's Kevin, and today I am going to be playing Melee, other book out here as well, and Death Test. They're from the Fantasy Trip I Want It All Kickstarter box. So these are modern versions of these games. Melee, well, I'll read the book here, and it will explain itself. But it's a tactical combat game. I'm not going to read that. I'll start with this. This is a description of a combat, so it's not especially useful or interesting. Melee is a game of man-to-man combat with archaic weapons. What they mean by archaic is basically anything pre-gunpowder. So swords, axes, clubs, bows and arrows, crossbows, stuff like that. It can be used to simulate combat between single opponents or small groups in any period. Players create figures. Figure is basically any character, and send them into combat against a variety of opponents. Selection of weapons and armor, the strength and dexterity of the fighters, and the tactics the players choose will combine to tell which figures will survive. Successful fighters increase their strength and dexterity by gaining experience. Losers die. Melee can also, I'm going to skip that paragraph. Melee can also be used as a tactical aid for fantasy role-playing. Players will find that the Melee system meshes easily with most rules, allowing tactical combat to be worked out in a logical manner. Melee lets the game master regularize movement and attacks on a small scale, taking one of the biggest headaches out of fantasy gaming. And yes, I can tell you from being a game master, combat can sometimes take forever. Hours for, 5 people versus 5 whatevers. Can take literally hours. Melee is basically a 2-player game, but solitaire and multiplayer games are possible. And I'm going to be playing solitaire, obviously. I'm the only one here. So, each player may control any number of figures. The only limit to the possible scenario is your imagination. And I guess figure doesn't mean just characters. It can also mean each of the monsters or animals or whatever are also considered a figure. This Melee game contains a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to read that. Melee is a game of man-to-man combat in which the most important factor is the ability of individual fighters. Each counter in Melee represents a figure with its own capabilities chosen by the player before the game begins. A fighter's basic attributes are strength and dexterity. We have here a pre-generated character. You can see strength and dexterity. They also have IQ, which is for wizard, which is tactical spell combat, and they also have movement allowance. And possessions. This character has a small axe, is wearing chainmail, and a large shield. Alright, when a figure is first created, the player sets its strength and dex as follows. A human figure starts with 8 strength, 8 dex, and 8 extra points to be allotted as the player chooses. Animals and monsters go by other rules, which will be discussed later. Strength governs how many hits a figure can take, so they do away with hit points by just having strength be the hit points. Hits represent combat damage. The hits a figure takes are subtracted from its strength. When strength reaches 0, a figure collapses and cannot fight. When strength reaches -1, that figure is dead. 2. What weapons a figure can use. Each weapon shown on the weapons table, page 14, is a strength number. Only figures whose strength begins at or above that number can use that weapon. Reduction of strength during a fight does not affect weapon use. 3. How well the figure does in unarmed combat. See hand-to-hand combat. Hello, Laurel. I was going to watch you on the Roku, but then realized you're probably logged into those apps, so that wouldn't be good if you're already logged in. Yes. Those apps are logged in as me, so it wouldn't show it as you unless you logged out again and then logged back in as me. So Yeah, on your laptop is probably better. You know, not as big a screen, but if you want, I don't mind if you want to log out on Twitch or whatever the other Twitch app on the Roku is, or if you want to go to the Fire Stick and log me out on Twitch on that one and then log yourself in. That's fine. Just let me know if you do that so that I can understand what's going on if I try to log in, if I try to use one of those apps later. I forgot one of my parts of setup. I did not get my phone set up. So let me do that. I like to monitor my stream in as many different ways as I can. So I just want to see your hands broadcast giant on the TV, or not. Did you turn off ringers on the phone? I did not turn off the heat/air conditioning. I have not turned the ringer back on the phone down here. Did I dance around? No, Laurel, I did not dance around. There was no dancing around performed. I know you are very disappointed, but whatever. So, okay, so this hand-to-hand combat is actually like punching, fisticuffs. I'm not going to be doing much of that, I hope. I assume there's a way to lose your weapon, and if so, maybe one of the characters would then start punching, but whatever. Dexterity governs how likely a figure is to hit an enemy it attacks, how easily a figure can disengage from an enemy, and how quickly a figure can strike. Dexterity is adjusted for several factors such as armor, wounds, etc. You can see, for instance, this character has two dexterity numbers, 14, and then in parentheses 10. That's because they are wearing chainmail. I believe that's reducing their adjusted dexterity down to 10. When these rules call for a roll against dexterity, the adjusted dexterity, ADJ, capital D, capital X, is what is meant. A figure with a high basic dexterity may have a very small chance of hitting if its adjusted dex is low, and a clumsy figure can improve its chances by getting a positive dexterity adjustment. A table of dexterity adjustments is given under attacks. To hit, you must roll 3 dice and get your adjusted dexterity or less. This is 3/DX. So these are the dice that actually come, well, these come with melee. This was an extra Kickstarter stretch goal that I got. But I think these are easier to read, so these are the 3 dice that I'm going to be using. Especially if you're on a phone screen or something. Why is it only showing me 1 viewer? Shouldn't it be showing me 2 since I'm here? I don't know. Where was I? Blah, blah, blah. Once a figure's 24 beginning points are divided between strength and dex, they cannot be shifted. However, a figure who gains experience by surviving combat may gain strength and dexterity and in time become more powerful. Oh, I forgot to mention that these cards, the pre-gen characters, are dry erasable, so any marks I'm going to be doing on this are going to be done. Oh, that's right, I forgot to. I'm probably later going to be needing like blank paper, or I can have more dry erase cards. So I will get those out, and I will make my marks, any marks that I need to make. You turned off the heat air conditioning, but it's well, I suppose it's in the 60s out there right now. It doesn't really need to heat, or air conditioning, or air condition, or chill, or whatever you want to call it. So thank you. I'm sure people can already, there's already a computer behind me going away. That's the one I'm running OBS on. You can almost certainly hear that. But thank you for turning off that extra sound distraction. Once the figure strength and its dex have been determined, the player should decide what armor, if any, the figure will wear and what weapons and or shield he or she will carry. A figure may carry only 2 weapons plus a dagger. At any time, a shield counts as a weapon. So I noticed when I was looking at this character that they had 2 weapons and a shield, so that's why I crossed out the backup weapon. It was not a dagger, so according to that, as far as I understand, they shouldn't be able to carry it for melee. Obviously, in reality, you could carry 3 swords, 1 on each hip and 1 across your back, and a shield. But the rules for melee say 2 weapons and a shield counts as a weapon. So we're going to start with that. A record sheet or card should be made up for each figure, as in the example below. Fortunately, I have pre-gen characters. Ragnar's a Viking, I don't care about that. His card has 2 blah 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 blah. More about Ragnar, who I don't care about. Giving each figure a name and a background adds interest, especially when miniature figures are used as counters. Once each player's figures are ready, you may begin the combat. Okay, so we're almost to combat, except that there's a lot of pages here. I am not going to go through all these pages. I'm certainly not going to talk about the weapons table. I'm not going to talk about most of this stuff. Okay, turn sequencing. Melee is played in turns representing about 5 seconds each. During each turn, each figure may execute 1 option from the list below. Each option may include movement, attack, defense, or some other combination. The options available to a figure will depend on whether or not it is engaged, disengaged, affianced. Oh, no, that's not one of the options. Or in hand-to-hand combat. An engaged figure is one that is adjacent to an enemy figure in one of that figure's front hexes. Nothing in melee happens simultaneously. Each movement or attack may affect the next one. Each turn goes through these stages. Roll for initiative. Each player rolls a die. The winner may choose either to move their figures first that turn or to have the other player move first. Movement. So initiative happens each round. Movement. The first player to move chooses 1 option for each of his/her figures and executes the movement part, if any, of that option for each figure. How far each figure may move depends on its movement allowance, MA, and the option chosen. The second player then chooses options and moves all his/her figures the same way. If there are more than 2 players, the third, fourth, and so on. Pick options and move. Combat phase. All attacks are carried out. No figure may attack unless it chose an option, including the word attack. Figures attack in the order of their adjusted dex, highest first. So initiative does not determine combat order. It's adjusted dex. Ties are resolved each turn by a die roll. When figures are firing 2 arrows per turn, they fire their second arrow, again in order of adjusted dex, after all figures have made their first attack. If a figure is killed or takes 8+ hits in 1 turn before its time to attack comes, it does not get to attack that turn. Force retreats. If any figure inflicted hits, except a missile or thrown weapon, on an enemy and took no hits itself, it may retreat that enemy 1 hex, and either advance to the hex vacated by the enemy or stand still, thus possibly becoming disengaged. So that's a rule for knockback. Counters for thrown or dropped weapons are placed in the appropriate hexes, and counters for slain figures are flipped upside down. Yes, if you flip one of these counters upside down, what you get is a skull and crossbones, or a tiny skull and crossbones. If both sides still have figures able to fight, begin the next turn. Options. An option is a set of actions. A figure may execute one option each turn and may not mix actions from different options. The options available to the figure depend on whether it is engaged, disengaged, or in hand-to-hand combat. At the moment its turn to move comes. During a turn, a player may change his mind about a figure's options as long as that figure has not yet acted and that figure did not move too far to allow it to take the new option. Options for disengaged figures: move, charge attack, which you move up to half your movement allowance and attack with any weapon except a missile weapon or hand-to-hand. A figure can never attack if it moved more than half its movement allowance. Dodge, move up to half its movement allowance while dodging. See page 20. Drop, move up to half its movement allowance and drop to a prone or kneeling position. Ready new weapon, move up to 2 hexes, re-sling, not drop its ready weapon and or shield, and ready a new weapon and or shield, or pick up and ready a dropped weapon and or shield from the hex where movement ends or from an adjacent hex. Missile weapon attack, move up to 1 hex and drop to prone kneeling position and or fire missile weapon. Most of these options aren't going to be used for at least the first couple of rounds. I have other characters ready, and one of them does have a missile weapon, so later I'll be dealing with those. Stand up, rise from prone, kneeling, or knockdown position at the end of the combat phase, or crawl 2 hexes during the movement phase. Take no other action. A down figure must take a turn to stand up before attacking, running, etc. Cast spell. That one's not going to be used at all during melee. That would be for wizard or the fantasy trip. Disbelieve. That's not going to be used at the beginning here. It might be used in death test. I think that there's spell casting by the opponents in death test, and it's possible to add melee and wizard together and then play death test, but I'm just going to be doing melee today. Excuse me. Options for engaged figures. A figure which is engaged with an enemy when its turn comes to move may perform any one of the following actions: shift and attack, shift 1 hex or stand still and attack with any non-missile weapon, shift and defend, shift 1 hex or stand still and defend. 1 last shot missile attack. If the figure had a missile weapon ready before it was engaged, it may get off 1 last shot. This option reflects the fact that you can almost always release an arrow at a charging enemy. Change weapons. Shift 1 hex or stand still, and drop ready weapon, if any, and ready a new non-missile weapon. Any engaged figure cannot ready or reload a missile weapon. Disengage. See page 19 for an explanation of disengaging. Okay, apparently it's so complicated it can't be described here. Attempt hand-to-hand attack. During the movement phase, the figure stands still or shifts, then when its turn to attack comes, it moves into the hex of an adjacent enemy and attempts to hit with bare hands or, if it was ready, its dagger. Stand up. Same as G above. Pick up dropped weapon. Bend over, not moving. Drop your ready weapon and or shield, if any, and pick up and ready a dropped weapon in your hex or an adjacent hex. Cast spell. Once again, I'm not going to be using that. Disbelieve. Not during melee, at least not until I get to death test. If I make that. Who knows? Maybe I'll just spend the entire stream reading this book. It seems like a lot of stuff just for a board game, but it's tactical combat, and that is always somewhat complicated. Options for figures in hand-to-hand combat. Hand-to-hand attack, attempt to draw a dagger, attempt to disengage, which we still haven't figured out what disengage means, but we'll get to that, I'm sure, at some point. Figures begin the game in any of 4 entrance hexes starred at opposite ends of the arena. You can see there's stars on those 4, stars on these 4. So those are the entrance hexes. I'm not sure what that represents, those little bulges on the hexes, but highlighting the entrance hexes possibly. Each figure has a movement allowance of a certain number of hexes, and an armored human has a movement allowance of 10. Armor reduces movement allowance. Leather armor, movement allowance 8. Chainmail equals movement allowance 6. So this character has chainmail and a movement allowance of 6. And plate armor also equals a movement allowance of 6. Well, that's unfair. I think of plate armor as being much more constricting, confining, and slowing than chainmail armor. Whatever. Movement allowances for non-humans are given under non-human figures, page 21. Shifting. Only disengaged figures have options which let them move their full movement allowance. An engaged figure may move only 1 hex during movement, and must stay adjacent to all figures to which it is engaged. This is called a shift. In the list of options, figures in hand-to-hand combat may not move at all until they successfully disengage, which someday we'll find out what that means. Excuse me a moment. A little bit of phlegm. It's kind of annoying. Sure, Laurel is finding all of this fascinating. Moving onto other figures. Normally only 1 figure occupies a hex. A figure may never move through a standing or kneeling figure, friend or foe. A figure may move into another figure's hex for hand-to-hand combat or stop. If someone dies, flip their counter to the skull side. Fallen bodies are obstacles. To leap over one, spend 3 movement allowance and move into the hex beyond it. To move into the hex with a body, either spend 3 movement allowance to move cautiously, or take a move 1 hex option, or follow a retreat. Or, if you insist on moving quickly onto the body, spend only 1 movement allowance, but make a 3 dice dex roll to stay afoot. If you fail, you fall in that hex. A figure must stop its movement when it enters into any front hex of an enemy figure, thus becoming engaged. Alright, so here they define what front is. So front is actual front, and then the 2 sort of front. These are side hexes, that's a rear hex. I don't really want to talk about that any more than that, because this is taking a long time. Attacks. An attack is an attempt to hit an enemy. There are several types of attacks. In order to attack, except hand-to-hand, a figure must have a ready weapon. A figure has 1 weapon and or shield ready when it enters the arena. This character is going to start with a small axe and a large shield readied. A weapon stays ready after an attack unless it is thrown or dropped. In order to change weapons, I don't care. A figure may not... Remember, a figure may not attack during a given turn unless it chose one of the options whose title includes the word attack. Figures which change weapons, stand up, move more than half their movement allowance, disengage, etc. cannot attack that turn. Only 1 figure may be attacked per turn, except a figure which fires 2 arrows can fire at 2 different targets. Rolling for a hit. Finally! When an attack is made, the attacker rolls 3 dice to see whether it hits the enemy. To hit, a figure must roll its adjusted dex or less on 3 dice. Thus, a figure with an adjusted dex of 8 must roll 8 or less. Adjustments to dex are as follows. So various types of armor, and if you have a large shield when ready, you're facing, attacking from the enemy's side, attacking from the enemy's rear. Note, missile weapon attacks don't get dex adds for facing. Wounds. A figure that has taken 5 or more hits since its own last attack is dex -2. A figure reduced to strength 3 or less is dex -3. Now, it doesn't say whether those two are cumulative, but I am guessing that they are. That will be my assumption. If it happens that I take 5 or more hits in a turn, and that reduces me to strength of 3 or less. There was another rule in here. If a figure is killed or takes 8+ hits in one turn before its time to attack comes, it does not get to attack that turn. Well, obviously, if it's dead, it doesn't, but also, apparently, if you take a whole bunch of damage in one turn, you don't get to attack at all. Thrown weapon range, -1 dex for every hex distance to the target. Missile weapon range, no penalty if the target is in the same megahex. A megahex is this darker area, lined area. So there's a hex and then a megahex. Or 1 or 2 megahexes distance. If -1 if the target is 3 or 4 megahexes distance, -2 if the target is 5 or 6 distant, and so on in bigger arenas. Yes, we're only going to be using the base melee arena, but it's possible to construct arenas that are much bigger. We're not going to have to deal with that because Death Test uses this as the basis for every room. So nothing's going to be bigger than this, which is good because this barely fits on my stage here. Other adjustments: crossbowman lying prone, pole weapon user standing still against charging enemy, missile thrown attack against figure sheltering behind fallen body, standing in a hex with a fallen body. Adjustments are figured before each attack. The roll to hit is adjusted dex on less on 3 dice, as stated above, but a roll of 3 always hits regardless of dex and does triple damage. A roll of 4 always hits regardless of dex and does double damage. I'm listening so closely. OMG. Not really. Well, yeah, why would you want this on the TV anyway, then, if you're not going to be paying attention to it? Let's see, where was I? 4 always hits regardless of dex, does double damage. 5 always hits regardless of dex. 16 always misses. 17 always misses, and the attacker drops that weapon in its own hex. A thrown weapon drops in the target hex instead. A roll of 18 always misses, and the attacker's weapon is broken. So let's hope that we don't get any 17s and 18s. This character has a backup weapon of a dagger. So even if the small axe is dropped or broken, they'll have a dagger to use, and I'm hoping that I don't have to deal with that, but dagger does 1 dice -1 or 1 die +2 in hand-to-hand combat. Let's hope we don't need that. Rolling for damage. When an attacker rolls his dex on 3 dice or less on 3 dice, it hits the enemy. How much damage it does is determined by another dice roll. How many dice are rolled depends on the attacker's weapon, as shown in the weapons table. For instance, a broadsword gets 2 dice. If a figure attacks with a broadsword and hits and rolls 2 dice, the result is the number of hits the enemy takes, though armor can stop some of those. Some weapons have pluses and minuses. Well, that's exciting. We understand math. Armor and shields take hits for you. For instance, plate... Oh, by the way, the triple and double damage, I'm just going to multiply whatever the resulting damage is before armor and shield. So, for instance, 1d +2, if I get a double or triple, that would be 3 times whatever. 2 would be 6, and then armor takes effect. Armor and shield take hits for you. For instance, plate armor takes 5 hits per attack. If your enemy attacks with a broadsword and rolls 7, you should take 7 hits, but your armor stops 5 of these, and you only check off 2 hits. If a figure in plate is hit by 3 different attacks in one turn, the armor takes 5 from each attack. Pole weapons. I don't care. I'm skipping that. The left-handed dagger. I'm not going to deal with that. Shield Rush. Mail's in. That's just for Laurel. Armor, blah, blah. That's noted on the card. Thrown weapons. I don't plan on throwing any weapons to start with. Missile weapons. I'm not using any missile weapons. Hitting your friends. I'm starting out with just one character against one wolf, and then I'll ramp it up from there. Hand-to-hand combat. I don't care. Multiple hand-to-hand combat. Disengaging is the action of moving away from a figure that has you engaged. A figure which selects the disengage option stands still or shifts during its movement phase. When its turn to attack comes, instead of attacking, it moves 1 hex in any direction. You may move onto another figure to attempt hand-to-hand combat that same turn. Note that an enemy with a dex higher than yours will be able to strike at you on the turn you disengage, since his attack comes before yours. An enemy with a lower dex will not have a chance to strike you if you disengage away from him. A figure engaged with more than one enemy may disengage from some while remaining engaged with others, but may never attack on the turn it disengages. A kneeling, prone, or fallen figure cannot disengage. It must first stand up. I think we're going to skip most of this because we aren't going to do any of that stuff. So a wolf, which is going to be my first opponent, has a movement allowance of 12. Its bite does 1d plus 1. Its fur stops 1 hit per attack. Suggested strength, more for dire wolves. Well, I'm just going to say this is a wolf. 10. Suggested dex 14. All right. And experience and so on. So, moving you over to here. Let's see. Alright, we're going to have a wolf. Where should I put these cards? Probably under here. The wolf has a movement allowance of 12. Its bite does 1d plus 1. Its fur stops 1 hit. Per attack. Suggested strength of 10, so that's its strength. Suggested dex of 14, and we do not care what its IQ is. So for hit points, it has 10 hit points. We'll mark that as the... Yeah, we'll just cross all of those out. So that's its 10 hit points. Everything is already set up for Meg. Ooh, well, I just smudged that. It does not matter. So we start. I guess we can do initiative. It doesn't really matter. I don't think either of these are going to be getting to each other. So we will roll for the wolf. A 5. High roll is better in this. And a 4. So the wolf, this turn, goes first. It has a movement allowance of 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to count these as barriers. 10, 11, 12. So it almost makes it up to the fighter. Meg has a movement allowance of 6. She is going to take, she has a discharge attack. Move up to half movement allowance and attack with any weapon except a missile weapon or hand-to-hand. Now, the wolf moved its full move because that's the way a wolf is. I'm just going to say that. And so we are moving 2, and we're going to then attack. Normally, we would check decks to see who attacks first, but the wolf can't attack because it has moved its full movement. So, let us see. We want to roll our adjusted dex or less to score a hit, and that is 5 plus 4 is 9, which is less than or equal to 10. So we have hit. We are using our small axe, which does 1d6 plus 2. So that's a 2 plus a 2 is 4. So that's 1 point of damage is stopped by the wolf's fur. So we actually do 3 points of damage. And we are engaged now. So, I'm not going to be doing any movement at the moment, but let's still roll. So that's the wolf. The wolf will go first, and it is just going to do the shift and attack maneuver, and its shift is going to be stand still. Meg is also going to be doing shift and attack. She is also going to be standing still. And now we go to, yes, where do they have sequence? There it is. So, that's roll for initiative and movement. The initiative didn't matter, the movement, there was none. Combat phase. The wolf has a higher dex, so it attacks first. And it wants to roll 14 or less on 3d6. And that's 11, so it hits. The wolf does 1d6 plus 1 damage. So that's a 4. Plus 1 equals 5. But Meg's armor plus shield, the shield is only effective in the front hexes, but that's where the wolf is. Our armor plus shield stops 5 hits, so no effective damage. The wolf has to roll a 5 or a 6 on its attack to actually do any damage at all to Meg. So she's looking pretty good. So that was the wolf's attack. Now we come to Meg's attack on the wolf. And that is 11. 6 plus 3 plus 2. So she fails to hit. Forced retreats. There are no forced retreats. Counters for thrown or dropped weapons. There were no thrown or dropped weapons. So we go back to initiative. My plan is to just stand toe-to-toe for both of these characters. Stand toe-to-toe until forced to retreat due to injury. So I am going to skip over initiative and movement until it looks really bad for one of them. I mean, actually the wolf is probably just going to stay until it dies. Meg might try to run away, but she wouldn't be successful. She's locked in this room, basically, so... Even then, I think I'm just going to go toe-to-toe. I'm going to skip initiative and movement and go on to the combat phase for each of these. So once again, the wolf. Wolfie the wolf has a higher dexterity and will attack first. That is an 11 again. So the wolf succeeds in attack, but once again does not do enough damage to get through the shield, the large shield, and the chainmail. Now it's Meg's turn. She misses again. That's a 12. That's higher than her adjusted dex. So this is just going to go Wolf Meg, or Wolfie Meg, Wolfie Meg. So the wolf hits again with an 8. Oh, roll 1 die for damage, and no damage. Meg. Meg can't seem to hit anything, so no. The wolf. The wolf actually rolled a 3. That would be... It doesn't say it here, but that's like a critical hit. So roll a 3 always hits regardless of dex and does triple damage. So the wolf might actually get some damage in here. Oh my goodness, would have damaged anyway. So 5 plus 1 is 6. Times 3 is 18. Oh my goodness. That's a lucky hit. 18 minus 5 is 13. Meg goes beyond minus 1. She is dead. Poor Meg. So you can see, obviously, critical hits can turn the tide in a battle. It looked like Wolfie wasn't going to be able to do anything. I mean, Meg was dominating the combat, and then Wolfie gets a 3 and kills Meg in one attack. All right, we're going to reset. And now we are going to do a combat. Actually, you start there. Set up a combat with 3 wolves and 3 fighters. So I have not him. I also have Edulf, who has a Morningstar, cloth armor, small shield. That would be this character right there. And Ylva, who has a mace, chainmail, large shield. And we're going to add 2 more wolf figures. That's so actually, I think and they all have the same stats as Wolfie. So we've got Wolfie, Fella, and Rough. 14, 12, 1d plus 1, stops, 1, 10, 14, 12, 1d plus 1, stops, 1, and mark off all of these because they all 3 of them have 10. All right. Whew. Yeah. So, this will be a longer, more complicated combat. But I'm going to play the wolves stupidly again, as in they'll just rush up to the opponents and start attacking. And maybe the humans will be played a little bit more intelligently. So when it talks about turn sequence, it says each player rolls a die. So not each character. If you're playing multiple, well, each figure, they're called figures in Melee. So I'm going to be rolling initiative for each side until it doesn't matter, and then its combat sequence goes by dexterity. And I don't really think it matters which one of the wolves attacks first. But so we start with initiative for the wolf side. They rolled a 1, and as I said earlier, high wins. It doesn't specify that in the rules, but that's generally the case. Okay, so I am going to say that the humans are going to do the, what is it called? Charge attack. Move up to half their movement allowance. And in fact, they're going to keep in formation, so half the movement of the slowest characters, which are the ones wearing the chainmail, who have a movement allowance of 6. So we're going to move 3 and assume that at some point, well, yeah, at some point the wolves will rush up to us. So 1, 2, 3. No, 3. 1, 2, 3. We can't really keep formation doing this, can we? 1, 2, 3. So at least my flank is covered by that. So the wolves move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, that's more than half my movement, so I can't attack this round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's movement. Now it's attack. Attack goes in order of dexterity. The wolves all have a higher dexterity than the people do, but they move more than half their movement allowance, so they can't attack, but the humans can. We're going to start with Adolf over here. He has an effective dexterity of 10, so he needs to roll a 10 or less. He rolled an 11 and failed. Axe is Meg. Once again, she's got an effective dex of 10, has to roll a 10 or less. That is a 9. So Meg successfully hits Fella. So we roll for damage. Yeah, I'm not gonna choose between which of these two with effective adjusted dex of 10 go first. I don't really care. But they both go before Ilva with the mace. So damage is d6 plus 2. That's a 5, so 7. 1 is reduced by the fur, so 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there is a rule. Let's see, how many? 4. There's a rule that says that a figure that has taken 5 or more hits since its own last attack is dex minus 2. So have to remember, I will put this here, its effective dex for its next attack is actually 12. So that was Meg's attack. Next is Ilva. She has an effective adjusted dex of 9. She rolls a 7 and is successful in her attack. And so, 2 dice minus 1. Oh, well, that's kind of pathetic. That is 3 minus 1 is 2. And she is attacking Ruff. Ruff's fur stops 1, so total damage of 1 on Ruff. So that's this side. Nobody's going to disengage or move or anything like that. I am just going to go through combat order. So the wolves go next. And these 2 wolves go first, and this one has an adjusted dex of 12 right now, so he will go after these 2. So Wolfie. That is a 9, which is less than 14. So Wolfie hits Edulf. Ooh, that's a nasty hit. So that's 5 plus 1 is 6. Edulf's armor and shield stops 2 hits, so he takes 4 points of damage. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ruff attacks. That would be Ilva. That's such a weird name. Okay, I rolled a 13. But my dex is 14, so I still hit, even with that not very good roll. Yeah, I have to roll, what is there's a number, that 16. 16 always misses, 17 always misses, 18 always misses. And I'm not sure how a wolf would drop or have their weapon break. I don't think you can drop a weapon if you're a wolf, but I would say if you roll an 18 as a wolf, you've injured your mouth somehow and can't continue to attack. Anyway, so Ruff has hit Ilva, and we'll do 2 plus 1 is 3. Ilva's chainmail and large shield stops 5, so she does not take any damage at all. And I know that looks like a male figure, but tough. That's Ilva. So that was the 2 wolves that are uninjured. Well, that one has 1 point of damage, but Fella is next. Fella's effective adjusted dex is 12 right now, because Fella took a whole bunch of damage, so has to roll 12 or less, and rolls a 10. Okay, and now we remove that. So Fella has hit Meg. Ooh, 6 plus 1 is 7. Meg stops 5 hits, but takes 2 points of damage. Not looking good for the humans. Okay, so that was the wolf attacks. Next, we're going to start with Edulf again. And the Morning Star. Effective dex is 10, but he rolled a 5. I believe 5 is an automatic hit. Yes, but with no bonuses. There's no double or triple damage on 5. So, Edulf hits with his Morning Star, Wolfie, and does, 2 dice plus 1. So that's 9 plus 1 is 10. The wolf's fur stops one of those, so Wolfie takes 9 points of damage. Whoa. Once again, alright, so the rules are that if you take 5 or more since your last attack, your dex goes down by 2. But also, and I mentioned this, a figure reduced to strength 3 or less is dex minus 3. And if a figure takes 8 or more hits in one turn, before its time to attack comes, it does not get to attack this turn. So, Wolfie isn't going to get to attack on its next turn at all. So those modifiers don't matter. I'm going to flip over the card to help me remember that. That Wolfie doesn't get to attack on the next turn. It's already attacked for this turn. So that was Adolf. Next is Meg. She rolled a 12 plus 4 is 16. Oh, wow, that is they don't call it that, but it's a critical failure. A roll of 16 always misses regardless of dex. So well, at least she didn't drop her weapon or break her weapon. And then finally, Ilva, with the lowest of adjusted dexterities of 9. She is this character and is attacking rough. Rolls a 15. Well, that misses. So that's the human side. Back to the wolves. Wolfie doesn't get to attack. Rough rolls a 13, which is enough to hit. And Rough is attacking Ilva and does 3d6 plus 1, 3 points of damage. Ilva's chainmail and large shield stops more than that, and so she doesn't take any damage. So now Fella rolls a 9, which is good enough to hit. Fella is attacking Meg. That's 3 points of damage. Meg's chainmail and large shield stops more than that. Once again, no damage. So that's the wolf side. Now it's Adolf. Rolls a 13. Does not hit. Meg rolls a 10. 10 is exactly Meg's adjusted dexterity. She does hit then. So she's going to hit Fella. D6 plus 2. Rolls a 6. That's add 2 is 8. Subtract 1 is for the fur is 7. Fella does not have 7 points. 2, 3, 4, and is dead. So I'm going to move that off to the side and flip Fella over. Now Ilva. 13. Well, that's way over her dex. She misses. Now I should remember if a character, let's see now, if a figure is reduced to strength 3 or less, its dex is dex minus 3. So I should put a marker on Wolfie so that I know that Wolfie's dex is actually 11 right now. Still higher than those people, but a lot slower than Rough. So it's the wolves' turn. This is a new round, just to make that So, Rough rolls a 12. That's good enough to hit. Rough is attacking that character. So that is Ilva. And does 2. Ilva's armor and shield stops way more than 2. Wolfie has an adjusted dex of 11 and rolls a 9. So Wolfie hits and does 5 points of damage on Adolf. Adolf has cloth armor and a small shield, which stops 2, so he takes... Oh, yeah, he takes 3. 1, 2, 3. He didn't take 5 or more, and he actually has 13 hit points to start, so he is well above strength 3 still. So that was Wolfie. Now Adolf hopefully returns the favor and takes out Wolfie. He rolled a 10, which is exactly what he needed to hit. He will do damage. Oh, he gets 2 dice, that's right, because he's using that Morningstar. So that's 7, plus 1 is 8. Subtract 1 for the fur, and Wolfie is very, very, very dead. So that's Adolf. Next is Meg. The wolf that she was attacking is dead. She is going to change to Rough and attack Rough. These dead bodies where they're supposed to be. She rolls a 5. That's an automatic hit. There's no damage bonus to it, but she hits Rough. She gets D6 plus 2, so that's a 4 plus 2 is 6. Minus 1 for Rough's fur is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the rule is that if you've taken 5 or more hits before your, next attack, you are at Dex minus 2. So Rough goes to Dex minus 2. And then that was Meg with her small axe. Next is Ilva with her mace. Oh, Wolfie was taken out, so we don't... Wow! It's bedlam in here! Bedlam, I tell you! We don't need to have Wolfie's thing there anymore. This was Ilva. Ilva rolled an 11 and does not hit. That's above her adjusted dexterity. So, not looking good for the wolves. Rough is going to continue to fight and will stay on the same opponent. His dexterity is currently a 12, adjusted dexterity. He rolls a 12, so he hits. He is hitting Ilva, who has taken no damage. 5. Plus 1 is 6. Ilva's armor stops 5 of those. So Ilva takes a full point of damage. Alright. So that is it for the wolf side. Adolf is over here watching from afar. I don't think he's going to try and navigate his way through unless it starts looking bad for one of his compatriots. He'll just hang out there. He doesn't want to move into the hex with the dead wolf, and moving around here would take way too much time. So, we are going to start with Meg and her small axe. She rolls an 8, which hits. She does 4 plus 2 points of damage is 6. The wolf's fur stops 1, so takes 5. 1. Wow, this is a unimpressive dry erase marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the wolf goes to -1 and dies. All right, that seems interesting. I think we're done right now. We're at a 1 hour mark. An hour of melee is probably good enough. I'm going to take a brief break, stretch my legs, do a little bit of setup, for death test, and then come back. Hi there, I am back. So, we are now going to see if we can do some death test. Need as many as 4 opponents. Let's set them up like that. Alright. I don't need this explanation as to why we're doing this. Who cares? We're just going into a dungeon. The dungeon has a certain format where all the rooms look like that. How to play Death Test. This is a programmed adventure using the melee and optionally wizard combat rules. We're not using wizard. You must have melee to play. Wizard will allow you to add magical combat. Oh my goodness, excuse me. Add magical combat if you wish. The Death Test booklet sets up the rooms for you, gives you decisions to make, and tells you the outcomes of these decisions. But you need the melee map and rules for the... Wow, that's irritating. Map and rules for the combats you will face. Death Test can be played several ways. Solitaire, that's the way I'm playing it. I'm ignoring the rest of that. Creating figures for Death Test, I'm just going to use these. I have 4 pre-generated characters, and that's what I'm going to use. I'm not sure how you pronounce that other than Ivan. Why are there 2 V's there? That's Ivan? No, I'm not going to say that. Ivan. So Ilva, Adolf, and Meg we have left over from our previous melee demonstration, and I'm adding Ivan, who has a heavy crossbow, so we're going to have to look at missile combat, which we didn't look at before. Since Death Test uses melee rules, characters are created as in melee, wizards are created as in wizard. I'm not going to do that. However, this labyrinth is tough. Although a group of 4 beginning characters can sometimes make it through, experienced figures will have much better odds. Well, of course they will. Therefore, you may want to let your figures build up strength, dex, and or IQ in regular melee wizard combat, or just start with more experienced figures before attempting Death Test. I'm setting myself up for failure. I don't care. I'm going with these 4 beginning characters. And I'll probably get into the dungeon and die, and then I'll try it again and die. I'll just keep doing it. You know, about 45 minutes of play is what I'm expecting, and then I'll end stream. Before attempting Death Test. Entering the Death Test labyrinth. 1 to 4 figures may enter if you're using wizard. Any or all of the figures may be wizards, and magic may be freely used. Nope, not going to do that. If you're using melee rules only, you will be able to use no magic, but some combat-type magic will be used against you, and when it happens, it will be clearly explained. Well, if it's illusions, my characters are going to be screwed because they all have IQ 8, which is average IQ. It's what characters all start with, basically. If you're using melee rules only, blah, 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 blah. Record sheets should be made up for each entering figure. I've got these pre-generated character cards that I'm using. Just as in melee, all melee rules apply, except for those for experience. Experience is awarded to survivors based on their labyrinth performance. If you're using wizard, all wizard rules apply. Oh, all wizard rules except experience apply. All combat in the Death Test labyrinth is considered one fight. That doesn't... Well, anyway. Thus, wizards have no... Yeah, I don't care about that. It must blah, blah, blah until you are out. To enter the labyrinth... Oh, hits cannot be healed except by magic for either wizards or heroes until you are out. To enter the labyrinth, turn to instruction number 1 and read it. Like each later instruction, it will give you information and directions. Some instructions call for decisions. In this case, make up your mind what you will do before turning to the next instruction. To avoid losing your place, Oh yeah, so I suppose if I start, fail, and die, then I'm going to start again and maybe make a different decision. That's what's probably going to be happening, unless I don't die in the next 40 minutes. Then who knows? Maybe I'll spend that next 40 minutes reading these instructions. To avoid losing your place, you can make note of each instruction number as you pass it. You should try never to read instructions you have not legitimately come to. Yeah, I played a play your own. What is it? What are they called? The adventure books where you go to different numbers. You should try never to read instructions. To do so will lessen your enjoyment of the game. Also, there are a few instructions included that cannot be reached if you play fair. As you read the instructions, you will move down long corridors into rooms. All combat takes place in the rooms. The corridors merely take you from one room to the next. However, you must follow the corridor instructions carefully, or you will get lost. When you enter a room, melee turns begin. It is permitted to stop just before entering a room, either to change weapons or armor or to cast one or more protective spells on yourself or other members of your party. As soon as you are in a room, look at the room map and or instructions and place obstacles, pits, enemies on the melee map. Place your own figures in the starred entry hexes at the end of the room, east or west, you entered. Finally, read the rest of the room instructions to see what is happening and what your options are in each new... So, these are just considered normal hexes now. If you look forward, they'll place dark things. I should probably get those out. Be right back. As I rustle around in this box here looking for what I want. I should have done this while I was doing that be right back thing. Okay. Sorry for the delay. Okay. So I have a bunch of hexes that I can lay down. I'm going to set those over here for right now. And if it comes to it, I'll probably put dice down for... I have a bunch of stuff I can set down for other areas that are barriers. As soon as you're in a room, look at the room map. Place your own figures in the start entry hexes. Finally, read the rest of the room instructions. In each new room, a game turn begins with your 4 or fewer figures standing in the entry hexes at one end of the room, having just stepped through the curtain of darkness. Yes, the doorway to each of these rooms is an area of darkness that cannot be seen through. Obstacles, black hexes shown on the room maps, stop both movement and thrown missile weapons and spells. Pits, gray hexes, prevent movement except into the pit, but weapons and spells may pass over them. When all your foes in a room are dead or fled, your party may freely leave and re-enter that room thereafter. However, if a figure or the group wants to leave a room containing living enemies, even if they are asleep, trapped behind a fire, etc., they must A. be given a chance to attempt escape in an instruction, successfully move to one of the 3 starred hexes at either extreme end of the board, and have at least 1 hex of movement allowance left in order to leave. It is also permitted to leave by a shift or disengage, which takes you off the board from one of those 6 end hexes, or by teleporting to the other side of the curtain. The curtain of blackness is what they're talking there about there. When a figure trying to escape reaches the edge of the board, turn to the instruction indicated by the runaway choice to see if the curtain allows passage. If it does, the figure may use that last hex of movement allowance to get out and to safety. If the curtain does not allow passage, the figure stays in that hex, ending movement there, facing the curtain, which could be dangerous. If the figure tried to shift out, the attempt fails and the figure stays in the same hex. The same goes for an attempt to disengage. Teleporting out always works, but costs a wizard lots of strength. Note, it is perfectly all right to kill an unconscious foe. What is going on, echoey, not on screen, Kevin? I was getting these. I had forgotten to get those when I was doing my setup. I should have remembered that I need these for death test to mark various obstacles in the room. So that is why I was not on screen. That is why it was somewhat echoey, because I was far away from the microphone, and so that causes echoes. So there will be pit areas that will be represented by like these things, and then otherwise this kind of thing will basically be like a stalactite or a stalagmite, a pillar of some sort that completely blocks movement. Yeah, if I have more, I don't think there's more than a couple of pits in any room, but if there are, I might have to go to just using like this and say that this is not actually blocking, but whatever. I will figure it out when I get to it. Where was I? No, it is perfectly all right to kill an unconscious foe. Well, says you. Within the context of the game, it is. You will need to keep the following records as you play: the standard record sheet for your own figures. I keep trying to say character, but they're called figures in Melee and the Fantasy Trip. A map of the labyrinth. That's why I got this. A record sheet for each room you enter, which I'm just going to write on here, on this piece of paper. Or I might go to multiple. I have plenty of paper that I can do mapping and note-taking on, so. You should also make a record for each room as you enter it. The book will tell you what foes you encounter or refer you to the fighter table. Let you roll your enemies for your enemies. Yeah, here's the fighter table. There's also another copy of it in here somewhere there. Some of these fighters are tough. So, yeah, Strength 12, Dex 17, Fine Plate Armor. Yeah, that's kind of scary. I hope I don't roll that guy. The room record is made up of one record for each foe there, together with any other notes you make. If you leave living enemies in a room, they will be there if you return. Any corpses, friendly or enemy, will also be there as you left them. However, unattended treasure may vanish or wounded friends may die. See abandoning treasure. Therefore, you should keep all the room records until you finish the adventure. When you re-enter a room, go by the record sheet instead of the printed instructions. Things a group has killed will not come alive and attack again. Well, that's good to know. No zombies, or at least no zombies of things that you kill. However, foes left alive will be back in their starting position with the wounds you gave them and will attack on sight. You may wish to keep a record of the number of each instruction you take in case you lose your place. Picking up treasure. When you find treasure, make notes on the figure record sheets to show. There's room on the back of these for notes like that. Make notes on the figure record sheets to show who is carrying it. Each gold bar a figure carries will reduce its movement allowance by 1 down to a minimum movement allowance of 4. I'm not sure if that means that you can't carry gold past that or your movement allowance doesn't decrease. I'm guessing it means you can't carry gold any more gold if you've dropped your movement allowance down to 4. And since 2 of these already have a movement allowance of 6, they can't carry many gold bars, at least. I don't know what other treasure there is in here. Each weapon picked up in the labyrinth counts as gold bars for weight. See below. Other treasures weigh nothing. Hey! 100,000 gold pieces. It doesn't weigh anything. Any amount may be carried. Abandoning treasure or your companions. If a party wishes to avoid being slowed by the weight of gold. So, does it sound much echoey when I'm actually sitting right here? Or was it only echoey when I was off screen? I was just wondering, Laurel. I mean, you can probably hear my voice in the house and the voice on the stream, but if you have your noise-canceling headphones, maybe you could try those and let me know. I'm always wondering if I'm getting echo off of the back of the stage here, or off of the table, the desk. A little bit. I'm not sure what I can do to stop that, though. I could pad the back of the stage. I could pad this, but I don't know how much padding I'd need to actually get rid of the echo problem. Abandoning treasure. Back to that. If a party wishes to avoid being slowed by the weight of gold or extra weapons, some or all of these may be left in any room after it has been cleaned out. You can probably tell when you play it back later. I don't think it's bad enough to worry about. Okay, well, that's good. Has been cleaned out. That is after its occupants are dead. Note the abandoned treasures on the record sheet for that room. If the party comes back for them, roll 1 die. On a 5 or 6, everything is gone. Another party came by and took it. Otherwise, they're still there. Roll the same way for wounded, but living friends left behind in an empty room. When you come back, they've had their throats cut on a 5 or 6, and they are still alive otherwise. Gold, weapons, or bodies left in a corridor will always be gone when you return. So don't leave things in a corridor if you want them. Splitting a party. It is legal but unwise for a party to split up. Not only does it cause inconvenience as you try to read 2 sets of instructions, a party that divides its forces will probably be wiped out. Well, yeah, if they're all starting characters. I imagine that once you get strong enough, you could run this dungeon solo and come out on top. But none of these characters, yeah, so I'm not going to split the party. Strength lies in numbers, don't split unnecessarily. It is legal for a wizard to summon something or create an illusion to scout a room before entering it. However, images cannot pass through the curtains. It takes at least 12 turns to walk down each corridor. Thus, any image or illusion created in one room will vanish before you can get to another room. If you say so. I don't know how illusions work in this game. If 2 or more players are involved, the monster player can choose whether and when to attempt to disbelieve the mercenary wizard's figures. However, when one player is playing solitaire, use the following rule. Only foes with IQ 8 or higher can attempt to disbelieve. That is, wolves, bears, and other animals can't disbelieve illusions. Foes will only attempt to disbelieve when they see non-humans attacking them, or when more than 4 figures at once attack, or if they actually see a wizard create a figure in the room. If in any of these cases, roll 1 die for each foe each turn. On a 5 or 6, it will attempt to disbelieve one of your figures. I don't have to worry about that. I'm not playing with the wizard rules. Playing the monsters. If you're playing solitaire, you may use any strategy you like while playing the mercenary side as long as you follow the instructions. To play the monsters, use the following guidelines. Monsters and foes always fight to the death and never run, unless an instruction specifically says otherwise. Wow, how much more of this do I have? Oh, okay, so I'm almost to the instructions are there, and then the actual room stuff is the rest of this. So I am almost done. So I am going to go back and I'm going to look at missile weapon combat in melee before I start, because I have one guy who's a heavy crossbow person. And I didn't pay much attention to missile weapons when I was going through that. Monsters and foes always fight to the death, blah, blah, blah. Most monsters will use standard tactics. That is, they will run at you and try to kill you. Human and humanoid foes will attempt to close with you unless their main weapon is a missile weapon. If it is a missile weapon, they will try to stand off and fire as long as they can. Some monsters or foes will have favorite tactics mentioned in the instructions. Use these tactics as long as they seem sensible. In general, use common sense to decide what foes will do. If two or more reactions are equally likely, for instance, one orc trying to decide which of two humans to attack, roll a die to decide. Then they have a fighter table. Middle numbers are just starting fighters. Here's one with 12, 12, and leather and a large shield. As you go out to the extremes, so smaller numbers and bigger numbers, you start getting tougher and tougher opponents. So back to the melee rules. I want to look at missile weapons. I'm not going to do any thrown weapons, but missile weapons, no penalty if the target is in the same megahex. Crossbowman lying prone, I'm not going to try that. Not going to do any of those things. Yeah, it seems like the big adjustments are if a target is 3 or 4 megahex. If a target is in the same megahex or 1 or 2 megahexes distance, there's no penalty. -1 if 3 or 4, and -2 if 5 or 6 megahexes distant, and that would be a very long way away. I don't know how often that would actually happen. So can't use the heavy crossbow when engaged, except for that rule about a final shot. So let's start. Your party goes through the door and goes west. Yeah, you start by going into a door into the dungeon. You then go into a corridor which goes west. So you'll be entering from over here. You come to a curtain and step through, go to 48. Alright, let's see how well this... So here's a door. We go down a corridor. And we enter a room. I know that's not what the room looks like. I know that's not what the corridor looks like. And so that's the door. This is a curtain of darkness. There will be another curtain of darkness at the other end of this. So we go to 48. You are in the red room, a standard melee map with no obstacles. There is a large chest in the exact center of the room. Alright, so red. Wow, this pen does not want to write. Red room. Red room. Red room. There's a chest in the exact center of the room. You may open it, 93, or go out the west door. The east door is now locked. So that door is locked. I'm going to put an X through it. So we know it's a locked door, and we don't know how to open locked doors, apparently. So, we have two choices. There are no opponents in the room. We have a chest in the exact center. We'll call that the exact center. Except it's closed. The chest is closed. And, you know, chests are often trapped, in my experience, in dungeons. And I don't want anybody getting poisoned. So I am going to skip the chest. And really, we're not here to get treasure, we're here to survive. The part of the explanation that I didn't read says the reason we're here is we are auditioning to a ruler, and if you survive the dungeon, he'll hire you. And the better you do in the dungeon, the higher you'll be ranked. If you do really, really, really well, he'll make you one of his personal guard. Anyway, so we entered the red room. We're going to go all the way to the other side of the red room, ignoring the chest, and go out the west door. Pretty much any time I come to something which is like, it might be trapped, I am going to ignore it if possible. Open it or go out the west door, 16. So the east door is now locked. We go out, well, it's a doorway and there's a curtain of darkness in it, but 16. We're going to 16. You are facing west. You walk down a corridor and come to a four-way intersection. Okay. So we walk down a corridor and we come to a four-way. Probably shouldn't have started this high. I'll have to go down to a lower part of if I decide to go north. You can go north, south, west, or turn around and go east. Well, turning around and go east, if we turn around and go back east, we would just go back into the red room. And there's nothing in there for us. And the way that I drew the map, I don't want to go north, which I know is a stupid way to make a decision, but that's the decision I'm going to make. So, west or south? I think we started out heading west, we're going to head west. So, we go west, which is go to 144. And I have not, I mean, I actually... I did look at number 1. I've looked at number 1 before. And then I looked at whatever it is, 48. But beyond that, oh, I should probably be marking down the instructions that I follow since it told me to do that. So 1 led me to 48. 48. I then did 16. Go to 16, which is the four-way intersection. And because it's easier, I'm going to do 144. Head west. But yeah, I haven't played any of the rest of this ever. You are facing west. In front of you is a curtain. Go through, 11, or turn around, 100. Well, turning around would be somewhat pointless. So I am going to go through it, 11. And I assume that means that I'm going to enter a room, which once again, it doesn't look like this, but who cares? I certainly don't. So 11. Haven't encountered any combat yet. Maybe we will now. You are in the gold room. See map below. Gold. Wow. There's a very large blocked area in the middle of this room. I will be back in just a second because I don't want to have to use those individual hexes, but I do have great big like mega hexes that I can use to show that part. Sorry for that. So we're in the gold room. As the last of your party passes through the curtain, you hear growling. There is a large bear at each of the X's, so there and there and there. Position your party on the 4 entrance hexes and go to 21. It doesn't tell me what the T means, but sometimes they use multiple, a single room can be multiple maps. So I think, let's see, is it like that? There's the entry area, there's the mega hex that's just above it, and then there's this and that, and doing it like this, I believe. Does that look about right? Yeah, they all look slightly above each other. And I happen to have bear tokens ready. I was going to maybe use those for melee, but decided not to. What's his facing? Probably like that. His facing is probably like that. All right. Position your party on the 4 entrance hexes and go to 21. 21. You have the initiative. I don't know how it knows that, but okay. If you want to go back through the door, go to 35. If you want to fight, go to 50. Well, I think we are going to... Now remember, these are not actually blocked areas, just that. Oh, and I forgot to mark that I just went to '21. So let's try it. I don't remember how tough bears are, but we can certainly attempt to kill us a couple of bears. So, combat, well, we have initiative. It says that. I'm not sure. I mean, usually you have to roll for initiative, but if it's going to give us the initiative on the first turn, let's take it. We have movement allowances of 6 and 10. Let's try the move, half, and attack, and we will do that in formation. So we're not going to move more than the half of the slower people, the people with the actual armor on. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and that doesn't. Let's try this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is half of Adolf's move. 1, oh, that's 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So Adolf will actually only move to here. So he'll only move 4. And 1, 2, 3. And we'll anticipate the bears coming and attacking us. So let's look at bears. Bears are in the same area as wolves. Monsters and beasts here. A bear has a movement allowance of 8. It normally does 2d2 damage or 3 dice in hand-to-hand combat. Its fur acts as armor, taking... Alright, so we will write up the bears on our opponent sheets. We only need 2 of these, so I'll put 2 of them away for the moment. So we're going to have Daddy Bear and Baby Bear. Their stats will not be different. Suggested strength is 30. Oh my goodness. 30. Suggested dexterity of 11. Movement allowance is 8. It does 2d plus 2 plus 2. Its fur stops, what does it say? Taking 2 hits. Stops 2. 2. So a strength of 30 sounds scary, but it doesn't do more damage with that. What it means is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. That it has all of those hit points. That it has 30 hit points. So it takes a long time to down a bear. The damage is not affected by the strength. Strength, where does it say that? Strength governs how many hits a figure can take, what weapons it can use. Obviously, the bears are not using weapons in this case. How well the figure does in an unarmed combat. I am not going to move into hand-to-hand with these bears. I am going to use my weapons because I am an intelligent human. So, I have done my move. The bears will now move. Oh, I didn't write the word. Write the number 2 after this. Stops 2. Okay, so the bears move 8. And being bears, so he started here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't need to move any further. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I am engaged. So we have done movement. Now comes combat in order of dexterity. Effective dexterity. So Daddy Bear and Baby Bear both have 11. None of us have 11. They go first. I'm going to start with Daddy, who is attacking Ilva, and then go to Baby, who is attacking Adolf. Daddy rolls a 10 and hits. This is not going to be good for Ilva. She's probably going to take some damage. So, the bears do 2d plus 2. That is 8 plus 2 is 10. Whoa. This combat is going bad already. So 10, but Ilva has chainmail and a large shield, which stops 5. So she's going to take 5. And that means that her dexterity is now down 2 for her next combat round. So that was Daddy. Now it's time for Baby. Baby also hits. Adolf does not have as good of armor. He is not going to do well. 7. That's not a critical hit, but it is a hit. So, Baby does 2d plus 2 as well. 7 plus 2 is 9. Adolf has armor that stops 2 of those, so that's 7. 5, 6, 7. Adolphus also has his dexterity reduced by 2. Ooh, wow, things are not going well for the adventurers. Probably should have turned around and gone back and tried to go south, I guess. Because this is a nasty room. All right. Now, neither of these... Let's see. Neither of them have taken 8 or more. They do... They both have taken at least 5, so their dex is reduced. So they're not... If they had taken 8 or more, they would be prevented from attacking. They just have reduced attack. So what do we have? We have 10, 9, 8, and 7 for adjusted dexterities right now. So Meg, with her small axe, does not have an opponent where she's standing, so she does not attack. 9, Ivan. I think he is going to attack Baby Bear with his crossbow. He is 1 megahex away, so he's in this megahex. The bear is in that megahex. So he does not have a penalty. He just needs to roll his dexterity of 9. And instead he rolled a 4. Yay! 4 is pretty good because it's a critical hit. 4 always hits regardless of dex and does double damage. He does 3 dice of damage. And so we roll 3 dice and double it. It's not going to be enough to stop Baby Bear, though, because Baby Bear has 30 hit points. All right, so that is 15. Oh, my goodness, 15 on 3 dice times 2 is 30. Baby Bear has taken 8 or more hit points this round and will not be able to attack in its next round. It's also been reduced down to 2 hit points and has taken 5 or more hit points. So its effective dexterity is reduced by 5. For its next round. After that, because it's still at 3 or fewer hit points, it... how does that work? Yeah. A figure that has taken 5 or more hits since its own last attack is at dex -2. A figure reduced to strength 3 or less is dex -3. So it's reduced to strength 3. For the rest of the combat, it's going to be at dex -3, but for its next attack, it's at dex -5. Oh, wait, except that for its next attack, it can't attack because it took 8 or more hits. If a figure is killed or takes 8 plus hits in one turn before it's time to... before its time to attack comes, it does not get attacked that turn. So it already attacked this turn, so it still will attack next turn. I guess that's the way that works. But this lasts until its next attack, and then it goes down to dex reduction of 3. And hopefully it'll be dead by then. So that was Ivan's attack. Meg couldn't attack because she wasn't engaged. Ivan attacked. Now we have Adolf, who's got an effective dexterity right now of 8. So he needs to roll an 8 or less, and if he does that, he can probably kill Baby Bear. Unfortunately, he rolled an 11. That goes away for now. So he misses. Even if he'd been at his normal 10 dexterity, he still would have missed. If he wasn't wearing any armor or shield at all, he would have had an 11. Well, I think it's just that, yeah. If he wasn't using a shield, maybe that's what's reducing his dex by 1. So, all that's left now is Ilva. She is on Daddy Bear. Her effective dex is 7. She's got to roll a 7 or less, which actually if she rolls 6 or less, she auto-hits and might do extra damage. But no, she rolled an 11, and so she misses also. And so this dex modifier goes away. So that's the lesser people here. Back to the bears. Well, they think, Baby isn't doing too well, but Daddy's doing just fine, so, oh, wait, no, there is movement. There's going to be movement. I am going to move Ilva to engage, no, that's probably a bad idea. Engage Daddy Bear. Sure. Since Daddy Bear hasn't taken any damage and really needs to. Also, my facing is going to slightly change. So that's movement. The bears aren't moving, so it doesn't matter for initiative purposes. And now it's time for attacks. Daddy goes first. Then the humans. And then Baby has an effective dexterity of 6 right now, so Baby goes last. So Daddy rolls an 11, which is equal to his dex. So he hits. I have a choice of opponents. 1, 2, 3 is going to be Ilva. 4, 5, 6 is going to be 4, 5, 6 is going to be Meg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3 is Ilva, so Ilva is going to take it again. Not good for Ilva. She's already down 5 out of her 11. So 2d plus 2 is 6 plus 2 is 8. Ilva has Chainmail Large Shield, which stops 5, so she takes 3 more points of damage. 3 more, which reduces her to a strength of 3. So I have to keep looking at this rule for some reason. I can't remember it. So she's got a dex reduction of 3 for the rest of her time in here. That's forever. So that was Daddy Bear. Next we go to Adolf with his Morning Star. He is attacking Baby Bear. And he rolls an 11. Unfortunately, that's 1 higher than he needed. So he fails. So next is Meg. With her small axe on Daddy Bear. She rolls a 13. She misses. Things are not going very well for our side. Ivan is going to shoot at Baby Bear in hopes of killing him before he has a chance to attack. So he needs to roll a 9 or less. Come on, Ivan, no. Oh my goodness, that is 11 plus 4 plus 3 is 14. Not enough for a critical miss, but he does miss. That's unfortunate. Ilva with the mace over here is attacking Daddy Bear. Her effective dex right now is 6. Well, she almost got it. Those 2 1s, but the 6 Screwed her over. All right, so that stays. Baby Bear gets an attack. Baby Bear's dex is currently 6. So not much of a chance. Yeah, 13. Baby Bear misses. But that does mean that the 2 for taking 5 or more hits goes away, and his dexterity pops all the way up to 8. So that is everybody. We start again in dex order. Daddy Bear. I think I'm going to roll every time. 1, 2, 3 is Ilva. 4, 5, 6 is Meg. 5. So I am switching to Meg. And I need to roll an 11 or less. I do not. I roll a 13. So that's 11 10s. Adolf first. Adolf with the Morning Star is attacking Baby Bear. And rolls a 14 and misses. Meg with her small axe is attacking Daddy Bear, who hasn't taken any damage yet. That's an 11. That's not good enough. Meg misses. So that's the 11 and the 10s. That's 8. That's 9. Ivan is once again going to try and take out Baby Bear. He needs to roll a 9 or less. He rolled an 11. He misses. I guess you have infinite crossbow bolts here. I don't know. Also, I'm not sure if a heavy crossbow... Let's see. Should I be attacking less often then? Heavy crossbow fires every 3rd turn or every other turn if adjusted dex is 14 or higher. Oh, so I should not have been taking multiple attacks with Ivan. Just the one. I'll have to keep track of that. So he's not getting any more attacks for a while. But he's 9... 8. Baby Bear attacks Adolf. Adjusted dex of 8, rolls a 10, fails to hit. And now Ilva, with an adjusted dex of 6. Let's roll really small. No, that is not really small. That's 11. Ilva also fails to hit. And neither of these go away. They are because they are reduced to 3 or less strength. So I don't believe there's going to be any more movement. Yeah, we're just going to keep at this attacking. So we start with Daddy Bear, who is still attacking Adolf, and he needs to roll an 11 or less, and he rolls a 6. 6 is... that's not an automatic hit, is it? No, 5 is an automatic hit, but that does hit. So we roll 2 dice, and Adolf is hoping for a very low roll. Oh, wait, no. Daddy Bear is on Ilva and Meg. So he hits one of them. I didn't decide which one this time. Let's go back to deciding which one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's a 5. So Meg. So I have hit Meg. I wasn't keeping track. Oh, that's a cocked die. So I am re-rolling it. 10 plus 2. Oh my goodness. 10 plus 2 is 12. Minus 5. Minus 5 is 10. No. 10 plus 2 is 12. Minus 5 is 7. So 5, 6, 7. Meg is now reduced to 3 or fewer, and therefore, and also took 5 or more. So she is reduced to a dexterity of 5 for the moment. Her dexterity will pop all the way up to 7 after this turn. Yeah, she did not take 8 or more, so she still can attack. So Daddy Bear attacked Meg and did a whole whopping amount of damage. Next is Adolf. Adolf with his Morning Star is going to attack Baby Bear. Did he finally roll something good? 8! Yes, that is good enough. Adolf has hit. Adolf does 2d plus 1. And that is 10 plus 1 is 11. Minus 2 for Baby Bear's fur. That's 9. So Baby Bear is taken out. I will flip the card. I will flip Baby Bear. And that die can go away. So Adolf has taken out Baby Bear. 10, 9. Obviously, I'm not going to attack Baby Bear anymore because Baby Bear isn't there. I will attack Daddy Bear. Oh, that's right. He doesn't get an attack because he only attacks every 3rd turn. So, Ivan isn't attacking because his heavy crossbow is super slow. You are 5 and you are 6. So Ilva attacks next. With her mace. She does not roll a 6 or less. Meg attacks with her 5. She does not roll low enough, but she goes up to 3. Up to a reduction of 3. Hers is now 7. So, we have movement. I want to look up. Only disengage after engage may move 1 hex during movement and must stay adjacent to the figure with shifting is the thing that I want to do. Shift and attack. Shift 1 hex or stand still and attack when then So, the bear is not going to move. The bear is happy where it is, killing these people. So, we are going to shift. We are going to move less than half of our movement. And this character is going to drop a weapon, ready a new non-missile weapon. He has a backup broadsword, so he's going to ready that. Ready new weapon. Move up to 2 hexes, re-sling, not drop its ready weapon and or shield, and ready a new weapon and or shield, or pick up, So what he's going to do is re-sling his crossbow, get out his broadsword, and move 2 hexes. He's getting ready to get in there and do some combat. So that's movement. Now it's attacks. Daddy Bear still has the best of the dexes. He is going to attack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2 is Meg. 3, 4 is Adolf. 5, 6 is Ilva. So that's a 3. 1, 2, 3. Attacking Adolf. Well, that's not good for Adolf. He's already down a bunch of hit points. and doesn't have good armor. So, I'm going to hope for a miss. That is not a miss. That's a 7. That hits. So he does, on Adolf, woof, 10 plus 2 is 12, minus 2 for armor is 10, and Adolf 3 only had 6 left. So Adolf is dead. Adolf is dead. Alright, so he was 11, 9, 6, 7. So Ivan moved and changed weapons. He can't attack. He doesn't have a missile weapon anymore anyway, and he isn't in combat, so he's not attacking. 7, Meg. Meg attacks on 7. With a 7 attack. Let us hope we roll very small, because Daddy Bear is, oh, that is not small at all. So Ilva, 6. Oh, I'm not sure that that's an automatic miss, but it is a miss. All right, Daddy Bear's still happy where he is, so he's not moving. Ivan, whatever, is going to move 1, 2, which is less than half his move. So this is a charge and attack. I believe that's the... He was a disengaged figure. He does a charge attack, move up to half his movement, and attack with any weapon except a missile weapon. Fine. So, Bear still goes first. Oh my goodness, I've been moving these around, haven't I? Get back on your... Not that it matters that much. It really looks like the Bears are going to win, or almost win. Possible the humans can still pull out with a couple of low rolls. So, I'm going to decide first who I'm going to attack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. So we are attacking Meg. I rolled a 15 and I miss. So, next is Ivan with his mighty 9 dexterity and his broadsword. He rolls a 9, which is good enough to hit. So he rolls 2 dice. Daddy Bear's finally going to take some damage. And that is 7. So he does 7 points of damage to Daddy Bear. Because that is 5 or more, Daddy Bear's dexterity on his next attack is reduced by 2. So that was Ivan. Next is Meg with her adjusted dex of 7. That is not a 7 or less. And then Ilva. With her adjusted dex of 6, she rolled a 7 and just barely missed. Alright, so that was the human side. The Bear's adjusted dexterity now is tied with Ivan, but I am going to go with the Bear first. We'll decide who. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3. So 1, 2, 3. We are attacking Ilva again. And we roll a 10. Our current adjusted dexterity is 9, so we miss as the Bear. Now it's the humans. Ivan with his broadsword rolls a 6. I think that's an automatic hit, but it doesn't do extra damage. Nope, it's not an automatic hit, but it is less than his dexterity, so he does hit. He does another 2 dice of damage. Oh, that goes away now. Oh, it might be coming back. Who knows? 7. -2 is 5. So we do 5 more points of damage. 3, 4, 5. And that causes, if I'm not mistaken, yes, I figure there's taken 5 or more hits since its long last attack. -2 again on your dexterity. Ha ha ha. And then Meg, need a low roll. Ilva, need an even lower roll. Oh my goodness, I actually got it. Ilva hits. 5 always hits regardless of dex, but it doesn't give you any bonuses. So, Ilva hits, and with her mace, she does 2d -1. Ugh. So that is 3. The bear's fur stops 2 of those. So the bear takes 1 more point. So that is the humans. Back over to the bear. Once again, he has an adjusted dexterity of 9. So, oh, I forgot to roll who. Doesn't matter. He missed. I think I might do that in roll to hit and then roll to see who I'm hitting, because who I'm hitting doesn't matter if I just miss. So the bear misses. Ivan, who might save the group. 7 hits again. Broadsword, 2 dice. You are there, you are there, you are there. 2 dice. 8. Stops 2 from the fur. Means I do 6. 2, 6. Once again, I'm going to be at -2. I should have removed that after that last attack, but Ivan seems to be consistently doing enough damage to keep the bear at -2. Meg, 7 or less, please, and stop rolling over the figures. Nope, not even close. Ilva, no, 9. Back around to the bear. He once again has an adjusted dex of 9. 8. Well, that's unfortunate. So now I roll to see who. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a 1. So I am attacking Meg again, and I do 2d plus 2. Meg's going to be dead unless I roll really small. Oh, that is not really small. So that's 10, 12. -5 is 7. So Meg is also dead. Like, not unconscious, but dead, dead, dead. I can see why they suggest you go in with higher level characters. Because just this first encounter is enough to destroy a first level party. So that was the bear and his minus. Whoa! Oh my goodness! Calamity! I apologize. That was terrible. Oh. Hope nobody gets motion sick watching that. Wait a minute. How is that? There. Gotta watch the stream to make sure. Well, that's not even right. What are you doing? Silly camera. What the heck is happening? You need to move it a bit. Yes, I know. I have to wait for the stream to adjust to and I had it perfect before too. I mean, perfect for what I thought was perfect. And I'm almost done with the stream too. Come on. How about like that? Wow, a lot of camera jiggling. All right, that's good enough. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's better than it was. So, where was I? Daddy Bear attacked. He killed somebody. Go with Ivan, whatever you want to call him. He rolls a 7. Hits again. Does 2 dice of damage. 5. 2 of those are stopped by the bear's fur. So a total of 3. That's not enough. Yeah, I don't know what happened that suddenly it was not the way it was before, and I'm not sure what caused it to be. I mean, before it was going all the way to the edge of the stage area, but not anymore. I'll have to figure that out. That was Ivan, now Ilva. She doesn't really have much of a chance. She's got that 6. Oh, 8. So pretty close, but no. Back to the bear. Oh wait, we didn't flip over Meg. The bear, and he is back to his full dexterity, but he rolls a 13 and misses. Ivan rolls an 11 and misses. Ilva rolls a 14 and misses. The bear rolls a 7. I think this is a foregone conclusion. All these people are going to die. A 7. So that hits. I've got 1, 2, 3 for Ilva and 4, 5, 6 for Ivan. And I rolled a 5. So Ivan, who has no armor on at all, he is going to take a lot of damage. 11 plus 2 is 13. Wow. With no armor, he takes all 13. Which means he doesn't get to attack this turn because he took 8 or more. And if he had, he would have had a minus, had gotten an attack, he'd have a -5, which would last for 1 attack, and then he'd be down, because he is at strength 3 or less, he'd be down to -3. So we're just going to put a -3 there. He doesn't get to attack. Ilva, with her amazing 6 adjusted dexterity, fails. The bear rolls a 12. Misses. Ivan does get to attack. His dexterity is the same as Ilva's. Let's do Ilva first, and then Ivan. Ilva? I don't know how you would pronounce that. So, that's a cocked die. 13. Didn't really matter. I had a 5 and a 6 already. And Ivan, who also has a 6 now, and that is a 10. So, nope. The bear is going to win. He is going to eat these people and mourn over the loss of Baby Bear. The bear. Oh, wow. 7. Yes, that hits. Who do I hit? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. So we are hitting Ilva. At least she has some decent armor, so if I roll low, it won't be any damage. But I haven't been rolling low. 6. plus 2 is 8. Minus 5 for armor and shield is 3. So Ilva is reduced to exactly 0, which means she is unconscious. I'm going to flip her character card over. So, Ivan fighting for his life with his 6 dexterity and therefore almost no chance of hitting. Let's hope he rolls a 3 and then a 12 and just wipes out the bear, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. So he rolls an 11 and misses. The bear is focusing on Ivan. The bear rolls, we're going to call that an 8. Hits Ivan. Ivan has no armor. This is a minimum of 4. Well, let's make the roll. And it is a 3 plus 2 is 5. And Ivan is dead. And the adventure fails. We're all dead. Let's weep. So, I'm gonna call it there. I think that gives a little bit of the flavor of Death Test and shows plenty of different kinds of melee combat. If you have enjoyed this stream, watching it on Twitch, please give me a follow. If you're watching this later on YouTube and you enjoy it, please subscribe to my channel and click that like button. If you didn't enjoy it, click the dislike button. Otherwise, either way, please leave a comment letting me know what you did or did not like about this stream. My next stream will be tomorrow night. I will be playing Lego Harry Potter. So, hope to see everybody then. Have a good night. Or afternoon, I guess, since this is an afternoon stream. Have a good afternoon.